Not even 5 minutes in and I'm already laughing at this game's humor.
Tony doesn't explain why he finds something funny cliche.
Alright, here we have our first sin of the game. Funny gag, but how exactly did this mafia guy get up here? Aside from boats, they don't really have any other means of transport, and I know a later act shows a mafia riding a rocket. However, the same mafia acts like this is a new thing, and despite their limited brain power, none of the others do the same thing.
If they have boats, they could have shot it up with a sling or something in front of there. Also, won't they leave the brain power preventing them from being consistent that way?
Dang, the art in this game is really good. Every one of these opening cards is really well drawn.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Now's as good a time as any to say it. This game is such a good presentation. The art style captures that Dreamcast feel that you don't typically see in a lot of indie games, and I love it. It makes for such a memorable experience.
Something's automatically good just because it's unique or even memorable, like how you mean that. You have to explain what makes that unique or memorable thing good.
Hey, I think one of your junk pieces fell and smashed right into the market's fountain. Messed it up real good.
No. The level intro showed that the fountain was broken before the timepiece smashed the fountain.
You know what was shown earlier, Tony? Was like y'all mistook it for the thing messing up the fountain. You already did that since, Tony. Most likely it's the charity videos you used to make.
In COD, we trust. This game is hilarious, I tell ya.
So a parody cliche is funny now?
Why does that sound so adorable and yet so inspiring? How can she get a job as a leader?
Also, Tony doesn't explain why he finds something funny cliche. A generic line is inspiring according to you.
Hey, the Mafia have some strategy involved. You attack them one way too much, they'll block that attack. It's simple, but a nice way to make them more varied.
Sounding like that isn't just the delivery, you know.
What the? Huh? It's slimy space alien! Mafia's a spaceship! Mafia knew all along! Mafia is being invaded by aliens! Ah!
Everything about this sequence is worth 5 wins. Imagine the Mafia being so dumb that simply falling into mud is enough to trick them into thinking you're an alien from outer space. I mean, you are, but this is in a creepy sense.
Tony doesn't explain his praise cliche. No, it's like an excuse, Tony. He's not that dumb, she is an alien, threatening or not.
Despite being the Mafia, they somehow have the manners to say please when telling you to go away. You just can't take these guys seriously, and I like that about them.
So politeness is laughable now? Douche.
So, it is you! Ever since you landed in Mafia Town, it's been raining with these magical hourglasses. You must be very lost, kid with the hat. You're in the heart of our town, standing before the most powerful man you will ever witness. Everything you've ever owned belongs to me now.
So something interesting about this scene is when the game originally released on the PC, this scene had entirely different dialogue. It went along these lines. I'm guessing what they were going for was to add to the lore of the world before patching it out, but my question is, why would you change it? The dialogue isn't harmful in any way, and the new dialogue doesn't change much outside of the Mafia boss not knowing what the timepieces are. You could have left it alone and barely anything would change.
That change was fixing a minor plot hole. How could that guy know something that would only come from wherever she came from?
But enough about that, we got awesome first boss music to jam to.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Things do anyway. Are they some sort of rare collector's item for nerds? Are they some sort of rare wait. Huh? Whoa! What? Do you know about this? This is crazy! Do you even realize what could be done with these? We can make it so that you never got punched in the face by the Mafia that one time. We could beat up the Mafia, travel back in time, and then beat them up again! No, wait. We can make it so the Mafia never arrived on the island. Wait! Even better! We could be crime-fighting time travelers! Wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. You have all this power, and you're not gonna use it to fight evil? If you're not gonna use them to fight evil, then I will. I'm not gonna let this island remain as Mafia Town. I'll collect all the timepieces for myself. You have my word on it.
Man, I want to win this scene for how well it sets up Mustache Girl, but that's ultimately its biggest failing. It builds up Mustache Girl as a huge threat, but she's barely in the game after this. Like, she floods Mafia Town with lava, yes, that's a thing she does, and if I remember correctly, there's a graffiti image of her somewhere at Deadbird Studio, but aside from that, Mustache Girl has very little presence outside of the final boss, which is honestly a waste of both this scene and Mustache Girl as a character.
She does make a huge threat of herself at first by filling the entire island with lava that was supposed to destroy said island. You even mentioned that.
What I am gonna question is how turning off all the faucets reverts the lava back into water. Like, yeah, water starts flowing again once I'm done, but I don't think water flowing turns lava back into water. It'll cool it, but the most you'll get is an ocean of cooled lava.
It still makes a surprisingly safe island. A nice solid cool lava floor. It blocks out floods and many floods too.
Yeah, there's obvious comparisons to Super Mario Sunshine's same levels, but that's clearly just its inspiration. If anything, they're better because the time risks are completely fair, while Sunshine's levels are needlessly frustrating.
Doesn't excuse one of the most blatant rip-offs in modern video game history. Also, Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Double movie sunglasses, hell yeah!
Tony praises douche kids, especially with that grin.
This movie studio is too big for the both of us, DJ. Grooves. The movie should be made by real birds. You moon penguins are just gonna write some loud, noisy dribble. If I wanted a bunch of picnics to dance around while on birdseed, I'd visit my grandchildren.
Nonsense, darling, nonsense. You Owl Express birds are just gonna record another boring train-related western. You've done so for the last 10 years, darling.
What? No, we haven't, you buffoon!
The rivalry between DJ Grooves and the conductor is very well introduced, and is one of the funniest parts of this whole game.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
I love that I'm being billed for the pettiest of things. This whole sequence just puts a smile on my face.
So you shouldn't compensate or anything for genuine faults?
Wait, I was actually being billed during all that? I thought that was just a funny visual gag. How were we being billed during that? We were sneaking around. Even with this game's zaniness, this doesn't make any sense at all.
With all the footsteps, she'd at least be noticed.
Fun fact about this picture, whatever you draw here will actually show up on your save file. Yeah, whatever you draw becomes your save file icon. That's worth a win in my book.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Ooh, you're giving me the quiet treatment, eh? That's what a murderer would do.
The conductor didn't really need to roll his R's that much, but he does anyway, and I love it.
You know it's not necessary yet to win it anyway.
This rubber knife is also a bit uncomfortable.
Funny twist, but that doesn't look like a rubber knife that just stuck on you. That looks like it's going through you. Rubber or not, you should probably be in a lot more pain than you are.
And bleeding if a rubber knife could even go through you.
Get them really up and going for your movies.
But how does this make a movie? I would understand if it was just propaganda for an upcoming movie, and that's certainly what it's portrayed as. However, the typical credits roll by the end of it, implying that everything we did was a movie, and I don't understand any of it.
And this is propaganda, yes, this is for not being me anyway. Propaganda also uses the credits often. Just ask Soviet Union.
What is a win is Hat Kid's parade outfit. That's adorable.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Oh, and the music for when you need to turn on the pyrotechnics and fireworks is a win as well. It's a really good track.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
The atmosphere for this level is spot on. The dark lighting and mood, along with either the conductor or Gru's muffled lines about what they're going to do with the timepiece, really captures a much darker side to this movie studio, and can possibly be considered a prelude to a later level. Yeah, those of you who played this game know what I'm talking about, but we're not there yet. Although, I will say it is a little annoying having to traverse the level on repeat playthroughs when you just want to experience the boss fight at the end. It's pretty confusing to navigate in the latter half.
Huh? The lack of ship to the boss means the latter half of the level, which has nothing to do with it, is confusing?
The fight against the conductor, I'm referring to the conductor because he's the one I've always fought, is extremely good. He utilizes everything from the previous movies. The knife from the murder mystery,
This one ain't rubber!
the saws from Train Rush, the cars from Picture Perfect, the bomb from Train Rush, and even the parade for the big parade, as well as his own strength and other assortments. This is the best way to wrap up a chapter like this. And that's all without mentioning the boss theme, which is equally great in every way.
So the bomb recycles the previous boss themes for no reason and has its own strength?
Ladies and gentlemen, the best character in the entire game.
You blew it! You totally screwed yourself! Nobody enters my home and leaves in one piece! Tell you what, though. Hang on a minute. You get to live! That's right! Aren't you lucky? Normally... That seals the deal! We're in business! Let me just grab this real quick. Whoops! Guess this soul belongs to me now. Don't worry though. If you finish your chores quickly, you'll have your soul back real soon. And don't you dare forget our little contract. I've put it in your start menu, so it'll never leave your sight.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Okay, now that that's over, question. How am I still able to walk around without my soul? The soul controls everything in the body, yes? So how am I still able to do Snatcher's bidding if I don't have my soul?
Aliens don't have human things like souls.
We want to die! Yay! We want to burn bright and then burn out, become a cloud of smoke.
I don't know whether I'm supposed to laugh or be totally creeped out by the fire spirits, and I think that was the intention, so... win for the devs succeeding at their goal?
If you're not sure about the intention, don't win a seat, idiot.
Oh my! Mustache Girl actually followed up with her plan of stuffing the Mafia boss's remains in a jar. Incredibly morbid, but win for following through on a seemingly hollow gruesome for the sake of it threat? I don't know, man. I just wanted to feature this.
That's the just excuse for punishing going, look, that be features this thing, I really like even if it doesn't fit here.
Is that a flying toilet?
Okay, in all seriousness, the Toilet of Doom is one of the most batshit insane yet unironically great bosses I've ever faced in a video game. This is on par with the Great Mighty Pooh for Conker's Bad Fur Day. Mechanically, it's nothing special. Throw the apple bombs at it and hit it whenever you can. But what makes this fight is the music. It's a mixture of 3 different themes from across the game. We got an original theme that's dramatic and menacing. The Snatcher's theme to emphasize who is in control of your soul and this entire domain. kid scene to assure that even though your soul is stolen, and it's currently possessing an outhouse, it is still you in there. Why did they go so hard for the fucking toilet? This is more of a final boss theme than the actual final boss theme.
So the greatest thing about that boss is something that doesn't even have to do with it, rather than its self-admittedly generic mechanics or whatever.
Okay, now's as good a time as any to say that this entire level is straight out of a horror game. Everything about it, from the atmosphere to Vanessa herself, is terrifying on your first go-around. Gears for Breakfast should make a horror game. They'd be good at it.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
However, I do have one major criticism. Vanessa only wanders the hallways, and she only enters the rooms when you make a loud enough noise, which really lowers the tension once you find that out. It's still a great level, but Vanessa could have been better.
So according to you, the nonsense of that mechanic is not also a problem. I'm quite annoyed to also alert her.
Wait up, kid. Remember how the old contractor had his head pop off? That wasn't a coincidence. It popped off the moment he stopped being useful to me. And guess who else just became obsolete? That's right. You. Now that possessed outhouse isn't bothering me anymore, and all those contracts of yours are tidied away, I don't need you around.
Yeah, Snatcher turning on us at the end was pretty obvious, but with a character like Snatcher, it's not what he does. It's how he does it. And he does this very well.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
That kid just straight up Uno reverse Snatcher's attempt at getting her to leave. I love this game.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche. Now even more obvious since he doesn't say anything specific in his praise at all here.
Ugh, Alpine Skyline. This is the worst area in the entire game, and that's including the DLC. It's long and big and boring and has the least interesting characters in the entire game. It doesn't even have a boss fight at the end, though that's understandable since there's no real villain here. Still, I greatly dislike this chapter and dread it every time I replay this game.
How's it boring? How's it been big a problem here when all the rest areas of the game are also big? And even there not being the boss here there makes sense, why whine about it?
But if there's one kudos I will give it, the Twilight Bell is a cool set piece. That's the one win this area deserves.
It also has to make sense, Tony. At least to the level when video games usually make sense. Also, Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
So before we get into the finale, I want to cover the DLC that came out a couple years after this game. And there's something weird that happened to it. See, when this game first released, it was designed to be on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One, with a Switch port coming 2 years later. The DLC, however, first came to the PC and the Switch, and it took 2 more years for it to come to PlayStation and Xbox. What took so long? Why did the DLC come to the Switch first, the one console your game wasn't designed for, and not the consoles you had it planned from the beginning? Don't get me wrong, I like that it's here at all, but it confuses me why it ended up taking so long.
This has nothing to do with the game itself, it's just about the porting of the game.
Hi, how can I help you? He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
That meme has been cliche by meme standards for years.
So for this act, we need to do a bunch of tasks around the ship in order to win a timepiece from the Lost and Found, and I don't get why. Isn't the whole point of a Lost and Found to keep items that the guests lose so that you can return them if they come back for them? And yeah, I know the captain says that no one ever comes back for their stuff, but that only makes me question the existence of the Lost and Found even more.
There are plenty of other things in this game to question, based on what's shown us. Why would an alien be so human-like regardless of biology? How could a town be flooded with lava so quickly? Speaking of, won't buildings be burning or something? Why would a child tower even be fucking possible? Ain't that special.
Not to mention, ship shape in general is pretty damn tough on your first attempt. Nowadays, for me at least, it ain't too hard, but on your first few attempts, it can be a hassle. Plus, there's an achievement you could get that involves doing all 18 tasks without upsetting the captain, meaning the meteor icon can't change from calm to annoyance even once, which makes an already difficult act even harder.
Tough is not the same as hassle or very difficult.
In place of a traditional boss, which makes sense since this chapter didn't have a villain either, we get Rock the Boat, which in the context of the chapter is a pretty good final level. The overturned ship makes for some interesting level design, and even though the music is reused from the Illness to Spread, it fits well enough.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
Yakuza Metro is the second best chapter in the game. The amount of colors and life put into this huge sandbox world, the deeply sinister and very well animated Empress, and the new music and costumes make this area absolutely majestic.
This time you're a bit more specific, but it still doesn't explain what about the music or all the colors make the place majestic. Even in this video, you still have to explain at least that shit.
You've grown soft! Time to bring out your fighting spirit!
Goro Majima reference. I don't play Yakuza, but I'd be remiss if I didn't give this a win.
How did you know it was a reference to that character if you didn't play Yakuza?
Catch her. Make it quick.
Reward is 1 million.
Okay, I don't understand at all why they went this route for the finale. Rush Hour isn't bad, but it robs us of a proper boss fight against the Empress. At least with Arctic Cruise, it made sense to not have a boss fight. There was no villain in that chapter, even though you probably could have had the captain attack you after wrecking your ship, but it works well enough without a boss. Here, we have a villain to take down, and all we get is a simple chase through the city and subway, which is extremely lackluster.
Tony doesn't explain this then. Why is it lackluster?
Essentially what Death Wish is a series of challenges that take the normal levels and add things that make them harder than they would be normally. And judging these levels is probably where the disclaimer is at its strongest because, let's face it, a mode like this isn't for everyone. Only a select few can even survive most of these challenges, let alone complete them. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go through every single challenge and judge them based on the challenge they present and just how much of a challenge they are, especially in comparison to the normal level. You got that? Okay, let's start with Beat the Heat.
1. No shit, almost out for everyone. There never been. 2. Huh? They're hard, but this one ain't so bad in terms of difficulty?
Collectathon. This one might actually be easier than the previous one. The challenge is to run around Mafia Town trying to collect 100 pawns, but you lose 1 pawn every second, and you can only collect 300 pawns before you die, with the side objectives being not collecting more than 200 pawns total, or breaking boxes or crates. The main difficulty of this one is honestly based on whether or not you can keep your cool, because believe it or not, you can do all three if you keep a level head. If you panic, then you'll more than likely lose, but by keeping calm and following the layout of the town, this one ain't all that bad.
Following the levels layout won't automatically make victory. Certain speed events will solve you as much.
Rift Collapse Mafia of Cooks. This one's part of the pink time risk that I haven't touched upon because I don't find them that interesting outside of the storybooks you get, which we'll touch upon after this. Basically, this is the same as the pink rift for Mafia Town, but you're on a time limit with the side objectives being finishing with 30 seconds left and collecting all the rift pawns. It's pretty simple and much like Collectathon, only really a problem if you panic. If you keep a level head, you can get all three done in no time. In fact, with one exception, the other rift classes are the same, only they're too unmemorable to win or sin, so I'm gonna skip over those.
If it's unmemorable, it's worth the sin.
She speed ran from outer space. This one kinda sucks. It's exactly what it says it is, with the side objectives lowering your goal from 150 to 120. Yeah, you're expected to shave 30 seconds off whatever your initial time is, and you basically need a guide just to know the most optimal path to the Mafia. I'm sure you could figure this one out yourself, but why would you? I personally was able to get a time of 1 minute, 15 seconds, and 54 milliseconds, and I don't even know how I did it, especially when the timer doesn't stop during the cutscene.
You had to ask them how you finished that level that fast. It's okay.
Mafia Jumps. Yes, they used the She Came From Outer Space level 3 times. This one is confusing as hell. You gotta complete the normal level in 15 jumps or less, with the side objectives lowering it to 7 jumps or less. While it is doable to make it to the Mafia without jumping once, you need to be pixel perfect in your following jumps because you need exactly 7 jumps to complete the obstacle course. You mess up once, you better restart, and man, that shit is obnoxious.
So her frustration levels being so high is because of you. Good job.
Security breach. No, not that one. This one is mildly annoying, but at the same time, not that bad. You're essentially becoming Solid Snake through a dead bird studio that's under heavier guard than normal, and the side objectives involve racking up less than 200,000 pawns and fees, and not getting caught once. I don't hate this one enough to sin it, but it's not fun enough to really give a win either. It's just kinda there, being mildly annoying, but not much more.
1, it's not as fun, it's okay to give it a sin. And 2, what's the point of featuring it if you're not gonna give it a win or sin? This format doesn't work here.
10 seconds until self-destruct. I get the feeling this one hates you because man is it cruel. It's train rush, but the time limit has been reduced significantly. You gotta constantly get clocks to extend the time limit while going through a much harder train rush. And the side objectives make you collect every conductor token and go through with no hat abilities and the one-hit hero badge equipped. Do you see now why I feel like this one hates you? Because all of that is so ludicrous for the sake of it.
So the level hates you because it's arbitrarily ludicrous? Okay.
In spite of that though, I actually had a bit of fun with this one. Normally, it's the conductor and TJ Grooves fight, only both birds are here. It's chaotic for sure, but with careful use of the time stop hack, it's kind of fun. It's the side objectives that make it not so fun. Winning with more than 100 seconds left isn't hard at all, but focusing on one director until they go down makes the fight much harder. Despite that, however, I still can't say that I hate this fight. Yeah, this one gets a win from me.
If there aren't anything special, then that's a problem.
Speed run well. This one sucks too. It's exactly what it says it is, but the side objectives lower the goal from 2 minutes to 1:25, which is just absurd. You basically have to do everything perfectly to get a winning time in this level. My best time was 1 minute, 22 seconds, and 0.4 milliseconds, and that was by pushing myself to the absolute limit, man.
I don't know, I saw some mistakes in the run, mostly in the beginning.
Breaching the contract. I have a love-hate relationship with this one. On one hand, it's actually kind of fun despite how chaotic it can get. Following the shockwaves that come out of most attacks is engaging, but on the other hand, not letting my health lower to 1 HP or only throwing blue potions at Snatcher is frustrating. You don't necessarily need to be perfect, but it damn near feels like it. Because of that, I'm not sure if I want to win it or sin it. You know what? Because it's Snatcher, I'll give it a win, but just this once.
So it doesn't feel like you need to be perfect here. Also, oh hi favoritism, you mean like vagina, don't ya?
Bird Sanctuary.
This is torture!
It's the birdhouse, only you can't kill any of the birds, and there's a metric ton of them all over the place. Even worse, the side objectives make you kill the 6 hidden mafia and get through it with the one-hit hero badge. I swear, unless you have ascended to a higher plane of existence, you are never going to get all 3 in one go. It's simply not possible unless you're a god.
If you had to be a god, then no human will be able to 100% in the game. And plenty of people have.
Wound up windmill. Would you believe me if I said that many consider this to be the worst death wish of the lot? Well, I don't think it's quite that bad, but it's just as bad as Bird Sanctuary. It's the windmill level, only it's shifted into maximum overdrive. Everything is far faster, and you're required to go through with no hat abilities and the one-hit hero badge, as well as reaching the end in 4 minutes. Reaching the end in 4 minutes actually ain't too bad once you have it down, but with the one-hit hero badge and no hat abilities, everything in this windmill blows. Pun intended.
It's the biggest thing in this deathwish isn't that bad if you know the level, then the level ain't that bad.
The illness has speedrun. This one's not really as bad as the previous two, but it's Rift Collapse Deep Sea. This one gets special mention due to the fact that it has the same requirements as the other Rift Collapses, just with the hardest one in the entire game. Without those stipulations, the Rift still wasn't memorable enough to mention, but with them, this level becomes arduous and painful.
Tony doesn't actually explain its problem, cliche.
This is easily the hardest and most painful death wish of them all. It's ship-shaped, but they've upped the amount of tasks from 18 to 40. 70 with the side objectives. Even worse, one of the side objectives requires you to complete 40 tasks without missing one, which is even more torturous. This legitimately feels like it was made out of spite, as if the devs wanted to torture us with this. I doubt it was, but it certainly feels like it.
It is disrespectful towards the players. They will not bother making this level. Why push the players away?
The Mustache Gauntlet. Now, relatively speaking, this was a huge breath of fresh air. That said, it's still kinda annoying. It's the final level, but made a bit harder, and you gotta kill all 99 bad guys because 100 is one too many. The side objectives are not getting burned, which is easier said than done given that there's enough fire and lava to make Bowser blush, and not using the projectile badge. The first 2 sections of the gauntlet aren't too bad, and they're gracious enough to give you checkpoints for each area, but the last section is pretty annoying to get through, especially with the ninja cats. Not to mention, the checkpoints can also be a curse should you happen to miss 1 or 2 enemies. Overall, I'd say this one's actually good enough to warrant a win, but even then, there's a bit of an asterisk on it.
Then say it instead if it's not that good.
And after all of that, after trudging through every challenge, completing every objective and candle, and getting every extra item, what's your big prize for defeating Death Wish?
What? You're not dead? This book was useless, Ash. Sue! You completed all my contracts, but somehow you're still alive to test me. Thanks, I guess. Really, that's just great. Congratulations. Huh? You want a reward? Look, kid, we've done this before. You really need to learn to negotiate up front. I get the feeling you're not going to leave me alone unless I hand over something. It's always about you, huh? You know, you weren't even supposed to make it this far. They should be picking out flowers for you right now. So I guess we can't always get what we want. Now there. At least you have the feeling you achieved something. You earned it. If it wasn't clear, our business is concluded. Go bother someone else, kiddo.
Just an achievement with a side of Snatcher's salty tears.
Worth it. Totally worth it.
That's it? Not a lot of one? That'd be warranted even in this day and age.
Dang, no wonder Snatcher's the way he is. Didn't expect someone like Snatcher to have such a tragic backstory. Makes him a lot more sympathetic, even though he is very much an evil ghoul now.
So being cheated on, fulfilling a human desire, is an excuse to go turn evil. You're impressive, you know that, Tony.
Wow, there are two tragic characters in this game. Puts things into perspective a lot more for the captain's demeanor. I feel bad, man.
Because of the previous caption, this the others are going to hell, Tony.
Make that 3. Why did this game A, get so serious all of a sudden, and B, excel at it? I'm feeling emotional, guys.
Du actually hade tonklash. That is so stupid.
This is exactly why I always pick the conductor for the boss fight. Grooves and his penguins are too kind to be twist villains. Win for all the feels this game has pulled.
So you're just about finding them according to use.
The Roomba has a backstory. They gave the little Roomba and Hat Kid's ship a bat story. And it's positively adorable. This is something I never knew I needed.
You didn't need it, you just found something you loved.
So, unless you play this game on PC with a mod that lets you do otherwise, this is the only instance in both the base game and the DLC where you get to play as Mustache Girl, and I don't get why it's here of all places, unless you willingly mess around. This section is over in seconds. I get it if the ship was redesigned to be a level, or you had to traverse the ship's routes to find a way to unlock the safe, but no, you could have had this be a cutscene and nothing would change. And while on the subject, I don't understand why they decided to make Bo Kid an entirely new character for the co-op instead of just using Mustache Girl. She controls exactly the same as Hat Kid, and she's the character people would want to play as. So why would you go through the effort of making a completely new character who doesn't add anything other than this goofy-ass sticker on the title cards? And don't say it'd be weird if there were two Mustache Girls, because Super Mario Galaxy and DMC3 would like to refute that. Both of those games have a mode where you play as the other guy, and not only do they have two of the same character, they roll with it, with a red Virgil and Luigi being weirded out by another him. Hell, you could have done something like Mustache Girl using a timepiece to go back in time and stop the Mafia herself. Look, I just want to play as Little Red Rebel Hood for more than 10 seconds, okay?
The game won't be doing something that's not original if you did what you suggested.
The final level is a nearly perfect final challenge to the game. Outside of Death Wish, it's the hardest level in the game, but at no point does it ever feel unfair. Everything is designed to where you can get through it if you put your mind to it, and any and all mistakes feel like your fault. And just because I know someone's gonna be like, I hate this final level because it's Discount Bowser's castle. No, none of that. The influence is there, but to write it off as just Discount Bowser's castle is dismissive of what it does right, which is just about everything.
You can't dismiss several similarities, Tony, from the dogmatic lava structure and lava gases to being in the final level, technically, and in a long room level structure. It is a ripoff, Tony. Done well or not done well.
She can get lost! Mustached girl is not welcome here! Mafia say get lost!
That's right, get lost! No one wants you here. Isn't that right, big lad?
This alternate reality stinks. Get lost.
Is this part of the final boss corny? Yes. Is it still the best way you can end the game and shatter Mustache Girl's entire black and white view of the world? Also yes.
No, both of these things could have been done without the cheese. The Mafia man could have told Mustache Girl that he invented the palette and calmly told her to get out, and the others could have told him to leave the places alone, for example.
The final boss may not be the most amazing thing ever, but it's still a pretty good fight. Mustache Girl's usage of the timepieces, the other characters helping out the best way they can, and the somewhat heartfelt sacrifice from the others towards the end make this fight a satisfying conclusion to the game. Not better than prior fights, but still a fitting conclusion.
Tony doesn't actually spin his praise cliche.
And even though I said that the Toilet of Doom's theme felt more like a final boss than the actual final boss theme, You Are All Bad Guys is still a good track in its own right, and worth the win as well.
Tony doesn't actually explain his praise cliche.
That said, I still gotta win this because even when you throw away the fake motivation the game presents, there's still plenty of reason to choose one or the other. On the one hand, despite how moronic the Mafia are, they're still terrible people. They invaded the island and continuously harassed whatever denizens remained there. Mustache Girl welcomed them with open arms and lost everything. She's been fighting them for who knows how long, and with the timepiece, she could get her home back. But on the other hand, we saw what happened when she had that kind of power. She made herself supreme ruler of the entire planet, made everyone on it, innocent or guilty, make queues a mile long, forced them to go through death traps just to get to her, and even then she might judge them as a bad guy and kill them anyway. Granted, from her judgment of Hat Kid, she wasn't completely blind, but she still went off the deep end. By giving her the timepiece, all that could happen again. Yeah, she had all the timepieces then, but we've seen throughout the game that people are willing to kill for just one of these things. Maybe that's why Hat Kid chose to not go along with Mustache Girl's idea of using them. She clearly knows their power, but chooses to not indulge in it, outside of using it to fuel her ship. The only time she does use it is to undo the damage Mustache Girl did. Perhaps she chooses to not indulge in their power for fear of them corrupting her, just as they did to the people on that planet. Now, I'm not going to urge you to pick one or the other, as it's not my place to say something like that. But I will say that personally, I give her the timepiece, because she deserves to have her home back. And hey, maybe she won't go off the deep end with just one. Let me know what you guys chose. I'd love to hear it.
If the Mafia and Mustache Girl are heads, the choice is clearly to not give it to them. Do not enable them.
leave us?
Hey, kiddo! Let's make another contract!
Oh, don't you dare leave, lass!
Let's watch our movie, darling!
Aw, even after all the bad stuff they did, they consider Hat Kid a friend.
Bye.
And even Hat Kid's tearing up at the thought of leaving. This game can do emotional moments superbly well.
Even she kicked their sis in, well, retribution. And if she still tears up at that, then she must have a child's version of Stockholm Syndrome.